Good morning, everyone. Have you wondered what will happen in 2025 for photography? We've seen incredible things happen with content completely automatically generated, cameras are changing, our software tools are getting so much simpler that it saves us hours. What does that mean for us as amateurs of photography, as professionals in photography? What jobs will disappear? What is really changing, and how can we look into it into the future? I've been asking myself this question, and in order to answer, I've invited Chelsea from the channel Tony and Chelsea Northup. They've been hosts of a YouTube photography channel for the past 13 years, and together we're gonna dig into all those topics. So let's get started in this conversation right away. All right, good morning, Chelsea. Thank you for taking
Hi.
the time. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming with your crystal ball for the 2025 photography predictions.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to speculate what's in the future.
Yeah, there's been so much changes lately, and I feel like it's only accelerating the speed at which things change. So I would love for us to dig into several areas. I think there's going to be the gear and technology where this is moving towards as photographers for photographers. Then there's going to be the amateur practice of photography, which I feel very passionate about, and the professional photography trends. How is that going to move? Professional photographers bound to disappear or not? I think it's going to be a very important question and a good reminder that we should always keep an eye out for anything changing. And then maybe the cultural ethical shifts. And the last one that I'm excited about is kind of the future of social media in the photography world, but also photography education. What does it mean coming up in 2025? Because I've seen already big changes, and I'm kind of curious to hear also your thoughts and exchange on that. And for anyone watching, I would absolutely love for you to share your inputs into this prediction and how you see things change, because Chelsea and I, have a limited view. So let us know how you see it from your angle also. So, Chelsea, if you're ready, should we start with gear and technology? I think you're almost more of an expert than me on that
Oh,
end.
yeah, sure. I think it's exciting to see how technology is changing gear. One thing Sony announced last year was like AI autofocus, which was kind of interesting. Did you get to play with that at all?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Did you? It wasn't like a huge difference, right? But it's still better.
yeah, it's like it makes it easier to recognize subjects, but I'm still struggling to see if I would always use it. That
Yeah, for me, I use it in wildlife photography. So
hmm.
I love birds. So if I see birds, it finds it for me in the sky, which makes it easier. I'm thinking with the technology and cameras, more things are going to be integrated into autofocusing. But I'm wondering, software is really not that good for cameras. So I'm thinking that they're going to hit their limitations, right? It's like software is always their weak point. So I don't think we're going to see huge improvements in the camera, but maybe more in the software world, right? Have you used
Hmm.
any AI editing software or anything like that?
I've played for years with Luminar, which I felt like always had a step ahead of Lightroom. But I heard of one that Evoto, I think, recently that
Yeah.
a few people have been talking about. They reached out. I haven't really looked into what they're doing. But what I've noticed is that it's getting easier and easier over time for
Yeah.
people to actually edit. And a lot of things that would take a lot of time are getting faster. So I'm excited for the everyday person to be able to access tools that we were kind of like you needed like so much learning before. What about
Right.
you?
Yeah. So, I used to take entire Photoshop classes. I don't know if you ever did that, but like go in
Yeah.
person and learn Lightroom and Photoshop and InDesign. And my friend actually recommended Avoto to me. So I like have a video coming out about them, but the stuff that took me years to learn before is now a
Hmm.
slider.
Wow.
So the layers you would do for frequency separation is a slider. And I think that's nice for photographers. It's one less skill to have to work on so intensely. I feel bad for photo editors because I've already heard photographers saying they're using AI software and not hiring editors as much.
Yeah, 100% the photo editor pool of people who do that in the world, in my opinion, is completely bound to disappear, especially after working and testing with Imagine AI, for example, and there is others that do the same thing where you just upload your catalog of Lightroom photos and they come back edited with your style that has
Wow.
been learned on your editing style. And it's been impressive, and I've used it. There was a video that was sponsored. I had tested the tool, and now I still use it. If I have like events or stuff or family, and I don't want to actually, I usually don't want to edit those photos, but I love to take them with my A1 or with those cameras. So I'll literally throw that in there, and it will come out very nicely. So I don't see how anyone can compete with that, on a human level. Yeah, that's kind of sad in a way, probably, but it's an evolution, and I hope the people who are photo editors already took that into consideration to see how they can modify.
Yeah, and maybe people that don't want to deal with that kind of software will still use them and they'll be able to streamline their services, but it's improved my photo editing, I think. So I see it
Yeah,
as a positive in a way.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And it refines. It actually made me wonder about my style recently because, like you have those sliders that would take you 6 layers, on Photoshop. So I would never do it. But now it's a slider. It actually could mean that my style may change a little bit just based on the accessibility of like advanced tools that were just not there before, and I didn't want to invest the time in it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I've definitely done that where I'm like, I could go in and edit their skin like this, but I'm not going to spend hours. But if it's one slider, then, I'll do it.
Yeah, so big change for the software. Camera wise, I mean the physical aspect, I think the trend has been it kind of gets smaller, at least with Sony, and more compact for the same output, which is good. Yet there's a balance of like the camera body still has to find that balance between, heating and cooling and all that. So you can't make them tiny, tiny yet.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see. And what I found and I had a reflection. I was looking at the Meta glasses and how they're coming up with their second version. And I'm like, is that going to be one of those tools that's going to be added as a photographer in the future, not just for the content creation of behind the scenes, but also actually maybe taking photos like that?
Oh, yeah. I haven't tried them. Have you?
No, no, I haven't, but I have a bunch of friends who do, and they actually like to share stuff and create stuff that is a little different from it. Like you would never be able, right, to get both arms in the frame and be able to take a photo at the same time. So
Right.
that you can kind of imagine how you would create more immersive photos differently if you're looking for that first person angle.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Imagine having a wedding party wearing them for part of the wedding on the dance floor or something. You could get some really interesting footage.
Are we going towards something more simple in terms of camera, do you think?
I don't know. That's an interesting question because we have this trend the past few years of film cameras and point and shoot cameras. So it seems like there's this divide at the same time that we're all moving towards AI and things that are hyper realistic. We also have people doing film and highly flawed but authentic looking photos. So I think that authenticity will remain a trend for a while. People want
Hmm.
something real. And I think good evidence of that is that Fujifilm, their top telling selling cameras are the Instax cameras. And
Hmm.
I think it's just because you can pull it out and that's real. It's proof that it's real.
Yeah, good point. I think this authenticity will get stronger, and I think you touched that with an old film camera or like a point and
Yeah.
shoot or even a disposable one. And b- and at the same time, I feel like this is still very niche to the photography lovers, but the general public will probably, I don't know if they will go there. I'm
Yeah.
curious, it's like I think there's a discrepancy between what we see as photographers and what the rest of the world consumes and sees. Uh,
I agree with
we-
you. We have our trends. It's kind of like music lovers will play music on vinyl, but it's not typical. It's kind of niche and trendy.
so that's a good transition to the amateur practice of photography, meaning the photography just for the love of it. And I was curious to see how that would change in 2025. Are people actually going to be more sucked into more complex tools or go back to something a little easier, and simple, and what will change and what won't? What you just talked about with the Instax and I think we saw it very strongly with the Fuji X100 V and 6 and all those cameras that are a little bit more everyday cameras. I think
Yeah,
this is very strong and it will keep going, in my opinion, in 2025.
I agree with you. I think people are enjoying that experience, hands-on and actually learning photography for sure.
And yeah, and so it kind of what do you think? I think it brings us to a point where in the world where I don't know if you've seen how crazy it's changed, but like there was this one guy that recreated a whole scene from Star Wars just by himself in at home in a week, just with AI
I didn't see
generated.
that.
No,
Wow.
it's insane. It looks really, really great. And you're like, wait, what's happening? So we're being fed more and more of content that's generated. We barely even see it. We see it in ads, but no one's gonna like stop and pay attention to it. So as amateurs who also consume, in my opinion, content, what's going to be interesting is going to be spending way more time in the field, and with human interactions and really wanting to reconnect with that. So that's kind of where I see people going, and that's what I echo also from people even in workshops or who are traveling. They're like, no, I want something real and human, and I want that connection because I feel they feel disconnected more and more, and I see that happening.
I'm glad that you're hearing that because I feel the same way. Um, I don't understand the point of photos so much if there's not a real connection there in some way, in spirit or sentiment or just physically being real. Um, and I do think people feel disconnected. More and more, we're just spending time with people in abstract ways or strangers, and it's nice to get out and capture a moment that actually had some emotional connection.
Mm,
It's so funny because in my photo journey, I think I started with something real, and for a while I went glamorous. I don't know if you did this, but you wanted like really glam and to prove you were a good photographer. And then I noticed that my favorite photos were always something more sentimental and real. So I kind of
mm.
went back to just a simple, meaningful, but real picture. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping for more of that.
I've noticed that, and it actually disturbed me at first when I was younger as a photographer because I was like trying to get to that more like glamorous or more worked on look and like this like really perfect-ish. And then I would see really great photographers who did great job, like not pose necessarily, but like take random photos, And I was like, I thought you were supposed to be a master. But what I understood is exactly what you're saying. There is this like simple, authentic and emotional connection to just an image without trying to overdo it or make it much better than it needs to be, and I feel like I'm definitely over the past few years have been to that point now where I'm like, actually, oh, I want something just simple I can look back and smile with.
Yeah, same.
So and I don't think that's gonna go away.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also, what about real memories? People's weddings or the day their kid is born. Do you really want AI all over that? You want to remember the messy moments. You want to remember that things aren't perfect because that's what makes someone who they are. So everything doesn't need to be perfect all the time. Maybe we'll finally get away from that.
Well, that brings up a very interesting point because so Lightroom was the app of the year for Mac in 2024, and they had a promotional video, or they always have their promo video, and you see them where they show the AI capabilities of erasing people in the background, erasing a dog, erasing a door, and that really raises the question because they're putting the accent not on a professional shoot photo that's being retouched, they're actually using example of everyday life photos in their marketing. So the question is like, are they trying to move and like tell people from that are using it or just doing everyday photos, hey, you should you can modify your photos, and Google Photos does that. You can long press on an object and can make it disappear. But it raises that question: what happens to your memories in 10 years? You know, like let's say you have a child and you took photos and you edited all those photos. You removed the people in the background. Your child is always alone on the beach. The dog is always smiling. Because you can
Yeah.
actually make up in the eyes or make people smile. It's like, what is that going to mean for the person looking back on his life after?
Yeah, I think that we're sacrificing aesthetic over authenticity because we're always thinking about showing other people what we want them to see. And you're
Hmm.
right. What happens, I mean, I wouldn't want to look at pictures of me as a kid and my dog is fake smiling and my blankie's not in the picture. I mean, like, that's the
Yeah.
good stuff. That's the real stuff. So I don't know. I think people do really want an aesthetic, but hopefully they'll want real memories too.
Yeah, and it's a tough one. I feel like the general public sometimes is not even aware that filters are turned on their cameras. And I
Yeah.
see it, by default, a lot of phone just ship with the skin smoothing. So you're taking photos of your kids who already have beautiful skin, and then and I'm like, wait, those are memories for future. So I don't want to be ranting, but I think that's something any photographer or any lover of photography should be really aware of, and try to actually nurture a little bit that authenticity and those raw moments, how they were displayed. I actually have a good quote from Tim Ferriss that he discussed in a podcast recently with one of his friends, and he was saying that applying digital plastic surgery to your life so you can share highlights that look better than they actually do in real life. And he was sharing that because he felt that this may not be for keeping your memories, but it's usually more for sharing. It's like how you want to be seen versus how you actually are seen. And I thought it was interesting. So I really encourage any amateur personally to stay as close as possible to reality without changing too much if they
Yeah,
can.
I think that becomes a deeper issue of why are you seeking validation from some just group of people you don't even know over
Yeah.
staying true to what's going on in your life. It gets deeper. That's stuff I went through being on YouTube too. Like, do you want to be authentic and do what you like, or are you just searching for validation all the time? Only one path is going to lead you to feeling actually good. And I think that that stands with your photography as well.
Oh, that's a good point. How do you see it as like when you're actually creating and from the process of creation to like sharing, how do you try to live by that truth or like that authenticity?
Well, so before we started recording, we were talking, right? You've been doing this for, would you say 10 years?
Yeah, 9 now.
9, and I'm like 12, 13 years. I think it's been a cycle for me because at first it was super authentic. It was like 2012 or 2013. I never considered people would see anything I put on my
Mm,
photos or my videos. And so I was just doing what I wanted. And I noticed somewhere along the line, I was getting very influenced by feedback. So, right, you
mm,
put up a picture, you put up a video, and you get like, you didn't do this right, or you did do this right. You get positive and negative feedback that ends up shaping you. And somewhere along the line, I realized I was seeking validation from strangers instead of just doing what I wanted to do. And I got kind of mad. I was like, darn it, I let people push me off my path because I don't really care about what they think. I just want to be me. I can't be the correct person for a million people. I have to just do what I want to do and believe in. And I let people take that away from me kind of piece by piece. So now I just kind of did a little mindset shift where it's like I recognize I'm not for everybody and I think that's okay. And I just want to make something I like.
mm.
And I still don't do it all the time. Sometimes I still make things and I'm like, that could have been better. But at least I did what I wanted, I think.
Yeah, that's a,
Is
that's a
that
good
something
point.
you stuck with?
Yeah, definitely. And whether it's in the video or in the photo, it's like, oh, this works. Let's do more of this. Or like people seem to resonate with that. But do I resonate with it? Do
Right.
I do it because it works? and it's part of my business, or do I do it because it actually hits a chord in me, you know? And because we're on camera, when we shoot, I think it's also, I mean, for me, it's hard to put on a mask for a long time. So the closer I am to my true excitement about something, the easier it is, to record for a long time,
Right.
even over years. But there's been a shift lately, I think things shift where maybe I'm less interested in being on camera, actually. I actually just love to pick up my camera, go shoot, and never share it with anyone. And I don't care, I don't want to, but I also understand that I have a business around it, that actually needs me to share stuff sometimes. So it's like that weird balance. So I don't know, maybe I'll retire in 2025. We'll see.
No, I've actually had the same experience where people will say, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "I've been taking a ton of pictures. I just don't put them online. Like, I don't need everybody to see the stuff I love the most. That's for
Yeah,
me." Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I start to have a lot more photos of family now also. That's interesting. So in terms of I think you mentioned also no studio or location. Can you tell me more about that?
I was noticing with people's ability to edit, you don't have to be able to afford a studio anymore because AI makes it so easy to remove the background and just add whatever and prompts
Mm.
as well. So I see a positive and a negative to that. It's not using the authenticity we were talking about, but at the same time, if you need a plain white background and you can't afford the stands and the backdrop, like it's a click of a button now.
Wow, that's so interesting. And it really, okay, in me it hits that chord of we're moving between utility and art, and I feel that the utility part is going to lose all the real worldness of it, and the art part is, and that's why in the amateur practice of photography, I really, really think that won't change because why do we like to take pictures? Because we want to be outdoors, right? We want to be engaging with the world, or we just want to take a walk and kind of capture things that we find is beautiful and capture more like create, right? And but everything that's utility based, I think is going to change drastically.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because when people just need to get something done cheaply, they're going to use the path of least resistance. They don't
Hmm.
necessarily enjoy the process like you do or like I do. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. I think it could be interesting for art too, because I used to have to make my own props because I couldn't
Oh,
buy, expensive things or expensive clothes. So, that would have been easier if I had AI then for sure.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Well, let's move into the professional photography trends, because I think this may be the biggest rift in 2025, and I'm starting to see it already around friends with brands. Just for context, there's a few brands that have run entire campaigns with clothing, with completely AI models, with completely AI generated photos. People barely saw it. I think 99% of people will never see it and not notice it, at least. There's been a lot of pushback, on that from photographers, from agencies, obviously. But I don't think this is going anywhere. I think it's here to stay, which means a lot of jobs will change, disappear for some of them. Do you have any photography jobs that you think is like 100% gone, and those that will stay?
First of all, I want to talk about that clothing situation because people might not be able to tell the pictures are AI, but what happens when you order the clothes and you try them on and they don't fit? You know,
Mm.
because isn't it that you're talking about the software where you send them a picture of your shirt and then they put it on a model? Like,
Yeah. Well, there's that, and there is also, I think it was Mango or Gap or something. They did a whole campaign with them, like fake models and fake environments, and but it looks so realistic,
oh, wow,
and
that's crazy. Um, okay, back to your question. I was on a tangent, sorry. I think that simple headshot type stuff will probably fade out because people are just
Okay.
doing AI headshots. I think that people will always want to remember things like their kids, family photo shoots, and weddings and things like that, authentic moments. But like you were talking about earlier, anything utility based, restaurants getting pictures for food, they might just generate that or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so here's what where I agree with you is really anything that is memory based, I don't think is going away. Even if you had a drone that was following you, even if you had a robot that was following you, I don't think it would do the same as, a human perspective of an event. Now, the whole part that's changing is like the workflow, right? I may just end up, it may be end of 2025. I don't know where I literally take this, plug it in the computer, and I press here, do this workflow, and it will do everything and edit the photos and send them to the client that I pulled in my software before. And I can already kind of create this, by the way, where there's a whole workflow process you can create in Bridge. I don't know if you're aware. And it creates different steps. You can even, so I imagine if you combine that with some AI and with other AIs like Imagine or something, you can literally take your memory card, plug it in your laptop, and run a script or tell, let's say, a chat GPT that you create for yourself, here, run this for this client, and it pulls up in the database the client name, the client email, all its information, maybe how they want their photos, if they want them lighter or a little bit, when I say lighter, it's like brighter or more in the moody tone, and edits and sends it to the clients where you almost don't have to do much, except being there and reviewing at the end. So this process already got a lot shorter. So that's a good thing. And for what's utility headshots, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I mean we've seen it. How many like people have you seen, they put their AI headshot of them with like I don't know, a different shirt or like abs or like they're on the beach, like so many, and they're so good that you're like, why not?
I
Why
mean,
not?
I could say kind of corny, but the average if the average person likes it, then they like it.
Yeah. So imagine a firm with like thousands of employees. They used to hire a photographer to come and take photos. Do you think they would still do that? Or they would just ask employee, here, take a selfie with your phone and we'll run it through our corporate SaaS software that's going to make everyone look like it was a professional hotshot.
I think they could do that option. Hopefully they'll still hire a photographer, but
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, it's gonna be tough.
I mean, one place where I have some hope about that is that people don't really want to discover new processes for using software.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you've seen this. My clients, they really can't handle any kind of extra step in getting their pictures. They'll get pretty confused. So
Yeah.
I really bundle things up and make it easy. I can't imagine most people figuring out how to use even the high-tech editing software. There's still
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, which is exactly why as professionals we need to be able to put ourselves out of business, meaning we actively need to understand every single one of those tools that are coming with a massive force towards us, so that we don't have to so the client doesn't do it and we take
right,
advantage of it or we manage it. Because let's say you don't need to send photographers on location anymore. Well, now maybe you're going to pick up six companies that you could and you can do them in an hour,
right,
because you're the one using that software versus they are. So you want to think in that as an entrepreneur, like how can you use this to your advantage? And yeah, it sucks if you love taking those photos. This may change for you. Photojournalism is not going to change in my opinion. It's actually going to be, like you mentioned, Sony has a authenticity in camera tools
yeah.
like to protect
And
authenticity.
Leica's working on it too, and there's a whole initiative. It's called the Content Authenticity Initiative.
Okay.
And we're getting to a point where we're going to have to prove pictures are real. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're trying to start that process and put it in cameras. Um, you're right. We're still going to need photojournalism. We're still going to need to be able to prove something actually happened. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And the two others that are going to change, I think, a lot is product shoots.
oh yeah, for
So
sure.
product shoots, in my opinion, you'll just do and it's probably already halfway there. You just take a quick video of your product, and then it will just generate your product in different environments. So you don't need to take the photo as much. So that's one. I think the high end will still maybe take the photo of the product, but everyday mom and pop shops or like solo entrepreneurs, like why would you bother? You can literally be like, hey, create a marketing campaign for this next product, and this is Christmas, so here's a photo of the product, and just place it in context with everything. Boom, that's it.
I've
You-
noticed the successful photographers that I know locally are not just doing photos anymore, they're doing marketing and like social media marketing. So they not only go take the pictures for a client, they're also doing branding for them and the marketing aspect.
Hmm.
Um, a headshot photographer I know does all of the styling as well, hires hair, makeup, wardrobe, and she's doing very
Uh,
high-end portraits for doctors, lawyers, business owners, and then is also helping them with the branding side. So because
Interesting.
the photo itself is getting easier, she's having to expand into how they're going to use the pictures and then take away those pain points. And she's doing really well.
Hmm.
So
So
I
she's
think
moving into a really that agency cross discipline
yeah,
role.
and same with another photographer I know. He used to go just take pictures and now he's doing branding for restaurants. He doesn't just take the picture, he's posting the social media, doing captions because people still don't know how to have a voice online when they're sharing their pictures. So we just have to keep wearing more hats as photographers. It's like keep expanding, keep learning.
I, it's and that's great you say that, because it's always a warning I give to anyone who's like, I want to be a professional photographer. I'm like, okay, but remember, if photography is your escape, this may become a big drain, and it's not going to be just photography. It's going to be so much more. Photography is going to be like 20%, and 80% is going to be marketing, sales, reach
Right.
out, taxes, everything in between. And that just adds to it. And I think yeah, you're 100% right. If you want to be successful, and I see it with really good photographers, also professional that I have friends in the LA area, they are usually really trying to move into that space of like, let's go more agency style, and propose something bigger to the client than just here are the photos. That's really important, in my opinion, to think about for everything that's professional. So if you're watching this, if you're listening and you have comments of other areas that you really think people should be paying attention to because it may disappear, let us know. Super curious to hear, and we're gonna read everything and process all your comments through AI, so I can have a summary of it.
Generate a new podcast from all your
There,
comments.
there you go. And you know what? No, I'll honestly take that summary from the AI of all the comments, and I'll post it in the community post and maybe on Instagram. So make sure you actually share your thoughts. It's gonna be so dense and rich. Moving on to cultural and ethical shifts in 2025. Number four, I think debates around authenticity. We touched on it quite a few times already. So I think authentic, authentic, authentic. Get back to human, get back to something that you can touch and feel, especially after COVID, being online a lot, being remote. People want to hug each other and spread the COVID again.
Yeah, we got to get back to spreading disease. I love the authenticity, but I've been surprised to see online what people think is real. And I'm getting tricked by AI now. In the beginning,
Oh,
I felt like I could see it all the time, but it's getting more difficult. One of the things I saw is someone AI generated like little baby cows like this, and people
okay.
believe it's real. So I'm kind of wondering when we're talking about the ethics, like we're skewing people's perception of reality, and that kind of concerns me. Should there be ethical guidelines to how you share your AI creations?
Oh my God. This is such a wow. It's true. I haven't seen the baby cows. I want to see them. So send me the link so we can put it put it for people here. There was one that was a before after ad that a friend sent, and it was, you know, those like body or diet, whatever, but before afters. The woman is in a bikini before and after,
Yeah.
and I couldn't tell what was. At first, it took me a while. She's like, look really close, and the after, the lady had 6 fingers, you know, and before she had 5.
That's a terrible diet. If you go on a diet and get an extra finger.
But how many people don't notice? You know, it took me time to actually look at it.
Yeah,
So how many people, you know, will see this ad and just like be whatever, you know, like click on it, go into it, and the whole thing was a sham. You know, it's whole the whole thing is wrong or fake, or maybe it's real, but it's still fake advertisement in my opinion.
right.
And and so that's like a big thing that in 2025 it's going to be a real struggle, even more whether it's video or photography to be able to tell any difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be difficult. It has to be clearly marked, but people with bad intentions probably won't do that. So, well, I think we're going to have to work out a way to clearly mark real, real photos might be the only hope we have.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like real photos, make sure this is highlighted. I think this idea of a human-made label is going to be stronger and stronger, and it probably other people have probably thought about it and started working on it. But really having either through the camera or whatever, but like having that stamp, like, hey, this person, this agency, this company only works with humans to make whatever you're buying, which is wild to think we're getting here so
I
fast.
I know it's a joke online, but I thought that the robot revolution, they were going to take the not fun jobs. This is the job I want to do. They should go do something else, like pave the road or something.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah.
wait, I'm gonna try to show you. Let's see if I have it here. So I don't know if you can see much, but basically there's those robots that are reading on the bench. And they're drawing and reading, you know, they're robots, and every human is just walking
Yeah.
glued on their phone next to them.
Yeah, I want to create literature, not the robots.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of like pointing out to something that is happening, like all this AI or all this machine learning is learning what we create in hand, and we're just ingesting random stuff right now. So anyway, I think it's a bigger thing, but for
It is.
2025, I would encourage everyone to really be on top of their ethics when it comes to what they're creating and how they're going to be creating it, and really think about that cultural impact when you're sharing things that are not real and what you want people to believe.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. A little personal responsibility.
Hmm.
Um, what about you'd mentioned inclusivity and representation? I think that's interesting because AI is also human created. So what we put in is what we get out. And we can often put in things that are not very good. So we have to kind of be conscientious of, you know, the
Abs
message.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be twofold. Like the first one that bothers me is that remembering who created those tools, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like engineers who were trained as engineers who have their engineer view of the world that created tools that the rest of the world will use for kind of creating stuff in the future, which I don't know. I was wondering if it's not too narrow of a window, meaning it's like if I create the tool, then the creation is influenced by my input, you know. So,
Right.
but I don't have a full answer on that, and I think this is a bigger debate on just AI in general. But what's interesting for us, for photographers and for brands, is that so that inclusivity and representation is going to be a lot easier because so now imagine you have an ad, right? And they kind of know your ethnicity, they know which part of the country you're in. It can generate on the fly the same ad, but looking like you.
Oh, That would be interesting.
So I feel weird about it because it's a way of including for profit. You're not including because you want to be inclusive, you actually want to increase your bottom line by touching people and making them feel like they're part of it too.
Yeah, but I also think the important thing about inclusivity is that other people see the representation because
Mm.
like
Oh
I
no,
grew
you won't because everything's personal. It will maybe
Yeah, we just
personalized.
end
So,
up in a worse echo chamber. Like this is like a very specific personal example, but I grew up with a sister with disabilities and people
hmm
would stare when we went out. But when they started putting, they had like ads with people with various disabilities, then it got normalized. And then
hmm
the general public is educated in some way just by seeing different people. So if we're only seeing ads of people who look like ourselves, that's just making us really self-centered and weird. I don't want to live like that. I want to
yeah.
see different looking people.
I know it's gonna be. I don't know how it's gonna go, but as an advertiser, you would imagine that you actually want to personalize everything, right? You
Yeah.
want it to be so. I don't know. I have no prediction on that one,
Okay,
but
Pierre, well, if
it's
someone with
skewing a
any
little bit.
power is listening, I don't want that. Let's not do
I
that.
don't want to. Please, no, no.
Yeah, please stay away with that.
That's funny. Well, let's move to a more fun area,
Okay.
which is the future of social media and photography education. Okay, so
Okay.
let's say you're learning photography, you're starting to learn photography. How is this changing for 2025 for you? Have you noticed anything different, or what's your prediction on where that's gonna go, on how
Uh,
we learn?
Learning photography. Ooh, that's a tough one. It feels like there's so many opportunities for people to learn online. We talked about how the learning curve is getting easier with editing and things. I think that people are still going to be watching their favorite creators to learn specific things. What do you think?
Yeah, I I was wondering if they would watch their favorite creator for the tutorials or simply for the adventures and the inspiration. And if the tutorials, and I think that may not be 2025, but next 2 years, where tutorials will almost be generated as needed. And
Mm.
I don't think we're fully there yet because to completely generate and show a camera of a specific brand, a specific model, and where to go is going to take a little bit more time. But now imagine, so this is me, Pierre, right? I have so many videos of me online. Now you're trying to learn, I don't know, how to use back button focus with Pierre, right? And you're like, okay, how to learn back button focus. What if YouTube had a learning thing where it just generates the answer for you in video, you know, based on based on who you like, right? And it will generate the video. Why? Because I think we're getting to a point where it will be able to, it's not there yet. So there's something that's happening also, and I don't know if you noticed, but YouTube has this tool with inspiration or something inspiration, but they're giving you basically complete script for a video that may perform or not, and they give you the rating of how much it would perform, and they
Oh
give
my
you the
God, I
whole
haven't seen
script.
that.
You haven't seen that? It's
Oh,
it's like in the video panel, it's crazy. And then it made me reflect. I'm like, oh, we're human puppets now. We're
yeah.
literally human puppets, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, YouTube telling you, hey, this is gonna work with people online. So you do this, here's the script, you say it, and then we'll feedback and we'll check if that worked or not. And I'm like, okay, then I can just disappear, And because we'll get to the army of AI creators, but now I'm completely irrelevant, right? For
Yeah.
all those scripted things.
Do you think people will be AI generating us?
100%. So I would, so if we want to put ourselves out of business, and when I say business, out of any ever human interest, I think we can also ask ourselves how do we create a AI version of ourselves
Yeah.
that actually helps people learn photography. So think of an AI tutor. Let's say you have Meta glasses, right? And
Mhm.
you get direct feedback on the field, reading the space, reading the place you're in. Maybe it sees your camera setting or it connects on Bluetooth with your camera, and you actually give feedback, but you don't. But like, let's say an AI version of me is giving you feedback on the field. And I think that that's going to be for every single skill you're learning. You're going to have that AI master with you. And I don't know. I don't necessarily how I feel about it. I think it's going to be an added tool in the toolkit, but it won't replace the in-person workshops for sure.
Well, I've got to be honest, I have AI generated myself.
Okay.
My voice for voiceover a
Okay.
couple of times. I could not tell the difference, and it was a little bit scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. So how long did that take? Let's say 2 years, 1 year for th this voiceover to be so good and publicly available?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year people are definitely hearing AI voiceover and don't know it because we didn't say we did it. It was just one sentence we had to add to a video. We trained um,
Yeah.
the software and nobody could tell. So I'm sure there's going to
So,
be a lot more of it this year.
so how many years until you have your video profile of you that you use?
I think I could probably do it now,
Wow.
right? But yeah, but someone else could as well. So I'm wondering if we're
I
going into
know.
a future where you own your likeness and you have to copyright your likeness or something. Right? We do that with our videos right now. If someone copies your video, you can do a copyright claim. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll copyright claim our image as well.
Yeah, this is my voice. This is my AI generated self. This is
Yeah.
my avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think it's fascinating move we're moving towards. And I don't know if you've tried, but you can ask, for example, ChatGPT, you can throw in a photo and you can ask for feedback on your photo. The feedback is pretty good.
Really, I haven't tried it.
Oh yeah, try. It's
Whoa.
crazy.
Wow.
So so I'm seeing a branch where people will develop a tool that's really just for learning photography. So you'll have the
I think
feedback, you'll have the, like on the
yeah.
field background, and as you go, it will give more feedback. But I don't know, I don't think it's fully there, and I haven't launched into uh, thinking more about how I would create that. But I thought about it for a while.
I'd like to see an individual like you do it, but I have seen Google trying to scrape information with Gemini and come up with answers, and it's wrong because it's
Hmm.
scraping from all sorts of random places and it's getting misinformation. A friend of mine just posted something in their story that Gemini said that water freezes at 34 degrees, but then
Mm.
at 27 degrees it becomes liquid again.
What?
So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know where it came up with this, but and the same Tony, my husband Tony, for those of you who don't know, he was changing oil in his truck and it told him to put in the wrong amount of oil. So when you're scraping information from a lot of places, you end up with wrong information. But if
Yeah.
you did be able to control the quality of the information,
Yeah, yeah, which is where I think that's the value added, right? Which is why
right,
what they do with the when they use AI in medicine, like it's very like they're trying to control and like make it very specific. So
right.
that it's they're training your model on very specific data and testing it. Okay, it's going to be harder to compete with AI generated content. Yes, no,
Oh, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, because like right now we deal with people taking our videos, right? Or taking your concept or even your exact video, but now they can make an avatar that's also hot and like a
Yeah.
better presenter. It's going to be me but better. Dang.
Wow, that's so strange. Yes, yes, I agree. And then I see it already. Like there's so many like reels or whatever that go. If I go to explore, which I go maybe once a quarter, in order to see what's happening in that world, to see
Yeah.
what trends. And then I'm like, this looks fake. This looks fake, but it has billions of views, millions of views, and
Yeah.
people just don't care. So I
Yeah.
really, really think a lot of people don't care. There's a community of people that do care, but it's so hard to tell the difference when you're just like scrolling.
Yeah, but you know what I think? I think the quality of your audience also matters. So maybe you get a
Mm,
billion people watching something that looks fake, but I think having even a smaller audience with people who actually are engaged and care, it's that's more valuable to me. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think it's always goes back to that, and I've seen it constantly over years. It's like it's better to have a small community of very engaged people with which you're very real than a lot bigger and just that goes into flames on the next algorithmic change.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
so yeah, that's interesting. But I'm kind of actually excited for how people will be able to learn a lot of skills over time with AI and feedback and also that capacity to actually learn a little bit on your own, so we don't have to receive certain emails. Also, I'm joking. Which aperture should I have used? I don't know. It's up to you.
No, yeah, I think that, oh yeah, we're going to reduce the amount of questions we get. I'm excited to see people learn and also get to focus on what they like the most because I know for some people the editing is not their favorite part. And
Yeah.
if you're not good at editing photos, it can look like you're a worse photographer than you actually are. So I think it's going to help people a lot in some ways. We just, like you said, as a professional, you have to learn how to wrangle it and where to add more skills to serve your client base and how to remain relevant despite the technological changes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And be careful, everyone, of the AI creators. And when I say careful, it's like watch out. Gary Vaynerchuk, who is an entrepreneur, and he has usually very strong and accurate predictions on where things are shifting. For him, 2025 is the year of the farms of AI creator bots, basically, that are just gonna inundate and received a lot of attention. And those who will make it are the ones who are owning those. And so I don't know how much space or how much space it will take from actual real influencers. And when I say influencers, it's content creators. So I'm very, yeah, I'd be very careful with that and what's coming on that end. Because remember, everyone who owns those is not doing it for the art. Most 99.999% are doing it for profit. So they're just trying to get you to buy something somewhere or scrape your attention. So
Yeah. I'm wondering what's going to happen if we go to so many bots. Who's creating the information that goes into the bots? It's going to become circular. Like there'll be nothing new on the internet anymore. Just everyone recycling.
I had that thought too. I was like, wait, so AI, like learning models have learned stuff up until now, and then they're gonna create based on that. But if we don't keep adding new, it's like what is it? It's gonna be I don't know, a caricature of itself in 10 years.
Yeah, it's going to be self-referential. Like just keep learning on AI after that. I don't know what happens, but it sounds like it could get really odd.
It could, or it just gets so good and would transcend it. It's also possible.
So let's hope for the first one that it just gets weird.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's leave people maybe with like two recommendations. What would you have for them for 2025?
Um, I think that my first recommendation would be for people to consider what they actually like to bring some authenticity into their photos instead of chasing the clicks. Try to find your audience that's going to appreciate what you actually enjoy doing because I think we all tend to chase a destination, but as corny as I'm going to sound, it really is the journey. You have to enjoy what you're doing. So that's my
Hmm,
piece of advice.
hmm, I agree. That's good. That's so important. And if you're authentic to yourself and you just love what you do, it doesn't matter if others do. And that's your true joy is there, is loving what you do. I
Mhm.
will give two recommendations, one for amateurs is and one for professionals. The first one is going to be go back to the love of your craft. Forget about sharing, disconnect from all these apps, in my opinion, like if, as much as you can. And although we do create stuff, the more I disconnect from it, the less I need it, which is interesting. So hone into your craft in person, in real life, simpler gear, travel, and workshops. Stay connected to a creative act in this world with people around you. Really, really try to balance that. And for professionals, be 100% up to date with the latest tools. 100%. Try to put yourself out of business. Try to understand how you may disappear. And if you do, or if you get replaced by a tool, how can you be the person that's actually using those tools for others, you know? And so you don't become the food. You're actually the gardener, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah, no. I know what you mean. Like you're using the tools, not letting other people put you out of business with them. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be an interesting year.
I think so. This is a tale as old as time for people and photographers, though, right? Like you have to stay up to date. You have to work with the changes.
Yeah, and maybe go back to an old camera and have fun with it. You
Yeah,
know, forget about everything else, delete Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever app you're getting sucked in, and just go out and play with your camera.
for sure. I like that advice. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for having
Everyone,
me on.
yeah, and everyone go check out Chelsea's channel. It's Tony and Chelsea Northup. They're a beautiful team for the past 12, 13 years with incredible videos. You guys had like the most OG videos and I love it. So
Thank
so
you.
much education out there. So please go give a big thank you to Chelsea on her side.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with all this AI technology, Pierre.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll just retire and live on an island with no technology.
Oh,
Just
that sounds
garden.
nice.
We'll see. All right. Bye, everyone.